Hey, what's up, college football fans? If you're watching this, your eyes are not deceiving you. Andrew and Nathanael together in person here in San Diego. Man, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
It's good to be here with you, man. We've got some football to talk about
this
week. Starting with our own teams, going to some big matchups we had last week, and, of course, some to look forward to. Let's start it, as we always do, with our home teams, and we're talking about the Florida Gators. Last week, man, we were questioning how they would play against Kentucky, but a 48-20 victory.
Man,
I was blown away. I mean, I was at a conference, I was telling you, on Saturday, so I wasn't able to check in until late at night. I watched the highlights. Oh, so fun to watch. This DJ Lagway guy.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. The stats, he's 7 of 14 with an interception, 259 passing yards. He just launching it downfield, averaging 18.5 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Jaden Baugh, another freshman, goes over 100 yards with 5 rushing touchdowns. The young guys are just...
yeah, they're just balling.
Showing out and playing. And not only that, the defense. The defense is doing things that are just mind-boggling. Coming off the first few weeks of the year, it was another year of Florida's defense is awful.
Yeah. And
the past couple of games, they've just come alive. Put Brock Vandegrift in fits. They had 2 interceptions, multiple turnovers forced, and the defense overall just came out to play, really shutting them down from start to finish. So to put up 48 points against a team that held Georgia to 13,
right,
and has really been good, especially over the past 5-6 years. Their defense has had our number. Stoops has really coached them well against the Gators, but what a victory to come off of.
Man. And I mean, we were talking about last week or the week before. It's like you just have to let the freshmen play, see what they're all about. Yeah. And, them having these big returns, looks good for the future, especially with, all the uncertainty with Billy Napier. I mean, how hot was his seat how many weeks ago, and now you're in a decent place. You have some breathing room.
Yeah, absolutely. To think we're 4-3 now is wild, and as we've chronicled all season, the tough games are just getting started. So we're getting into the gauntlet. But looking at how we played over this game, it just gives you some hope.
Yeah,
that maybe there are some good things on the horizon. But with that being said, we're on a bye week this week, and we're heading to play Georgia in Jacksonville in our normal matchup. Our yearly rivalry now against number 2 Georgia, who just came off a huge victory. Right now, they're certainly favored. I think the last I saw, Georgia's favored by a good 18 points or so. So the 80% of the people are on Georgia to win this game. But we'll talk about it certainly more next week, as this week we have our normal bye before the Georgia game. But the hope is there, at least more than how we've been thinking previously that, maybe we were going to win 2 games this year. So we might actually make it to a bowl. So I'm holding out hope for sure.
I think, looking at the rest of your schedule, you can probably sneak, you have to beat Florida State.
Right.
Where they're at right now. And you can, out of the next 4 games, you can probably sneak 1 or 2 wins out of there, especially Ole Miss team if they're checked out at that point. And Texas, we just saw Georgia, what they did to them, and Georgia's not invincible either. So it's bowl from 2 wins to maybe 6, 7. It's a
Napier is going from sitting up on the heat of his seat to starting to cool back in a bit. So we'll see. I know there are a lot of questions still to be answered, but it's good to see wins.
Yeah,
definitely on this side. Now let's jump over to USC. As the story is not quite the same after this week.
No, this was supposed to be the get right game. This was supposed to be the first road conference win. You're playing a Maryland team, which their last win before us was Villanova. They struggled all throughout Big Ten conference play, and USC. like, the big thing was, hey, we need to start hot. We did against Penn State. It's like, all right, now we have to play 4 complete quarters of football. Yeah. And we go, and we're up, 21-7 at halftime. Feeling good. It's, a little uneasy. You hope to be up a little more. There was some misplays, definitely, in the first half. And then a lot of underthrown balls by Miller Moss, you could say. The deep shot was there all game. You can argue, was he trying to back shoulder most of them? Because our receivers, as good as they are, just could not get separation for whatever reason. And, once the second half started, they scored in the third quarter, got it close. We got stopped, and they were driving, and I was like, man, this is it. Like, we're going to lose to Maryland.
Yes.
And then we go and get a pick in the end zone. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe we found our mental toughness. Maybe this is the start of something new. Like, we're just going to go the rest of the season. This is the start. And then we score a touchdown. We're up 28-14. And they're driving. They get a couple fourth down conversions, Tale of as old as time, apparently, this year is just the other team getting fourth down conversions. And I think they end up going 3 for 6 in this game, which can't have it. And they go down, they score, they get 2-point conversion, and this is the fourth quarter. And I remember looking at my brother as we're watching this, and I'm like, right when they got that 2-point conversion, I looked at him, I'm like, we're about to lose this game, aren't we? And then we go down, we have to punt it, then they go down, and then we stop them on fourth down. Yep. I'm like, like, maybe at that point we had a 90-something% chance. That was the second time that game that we had like a 90+% chance to win. And doesn't help that in all 4 of our losses we had above a 92% chance, according to ESPN FPI, in the fourth quarter to win the game, and we lost all of them.
Wow. This
was, again, another game where we had a multiple point or a multiple score lead in the fourth quarter, just to lose. Then they go and we stop them, and we go down, and it's like, all right, we go 3 and out, but we got 9 yards. Do we go for it on fourth, or do we kick a field goal from 41 yards? Which Michael Lance, he's been up and down. We talked about it last week. He's probably been one of the better kickers we've had in a while. But it's, they send out the kick unit, and it's like, all right, you know what? Kick the field goal. We're up 9. There's 2 minutes left in the game. They're like, make the field goal, game over. And they do the one thing you cannot do. They let a defender right up the middle. It gets blocked, and it gets returned all the way to the other 40. They go down, drain the clock, score a touchdown. But we come back, we have a minute, a couple timeouts, we go down, we have our own fourth down, and then I think Miller Moss just looked a little too long, found Woody Marks kind of open, but the defender, linebacker, just smacked him right before he could haul it in. I feel like that's, again, a game we should have won. Credit to Billy Edwards Jr. They kept calling him Billy the Kid the entire game.
Oh, gosh.
He had the game of his lifetime, which seems to be a common theme against USC. Where it's like, oh, wow, he made that pass. He's running around.
Yep.
There were multiple plays where we had him in the backfield, and he just kept breaking sacks, just letting it fly. He had this really dumb, broke containment, had a dumb shovel pass 7 yards downfield. Mind you, there was a offensive lineman in front of that receiver, which is that a little too far? Probably, but, I think right now we have to figure out how do we reset? Because obviously whatever we're doing is not working. The defense does well until it doesn't. We are the number 1 team in the Big Ten for third down conversions. I think other teams are getting 20% third downs on us. Looking at this game.
2 of 13 from Maryland.
Yeah. But we are, I think, dead last in the Big Ten for fourth down conversions. Where it's they just okay, we have 4 downs to go against these guys. And, it's tough. It's another just gut-wrenching loss. I think Lincoln Riley, a lot of people are calling for his head. I think he gets at least next season. But, right now, like we're talking about Florida. I mean, we have a lot of injuries. Put in the freshmen, see what they do.
Yeah.
Maybe make a switch at quarterback. Miller Moss, the confidence in him. I still have confidence in him. But, maybe you just need a switch in maybe a package with Jaden Mayava, the old UNLV quarterback.
Sure.
Just something to kind of switch things up. But, I mean, that's where we're at right now. I mean, it's another brutal loss, and we're actually playing today against Rutgers at the USC Coliseum.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully we got to win. I mean, we're supposed to win by 14. I'll believe it when I see it. I think if the game's close in the fourth quarter, there's going to be no one at that game, by the way.
Yeah.
World Series is happening. We talked about that earlier. The Lakers game's happening. There's a bunch of high-end high school games happening. There's a concert at the Forum in Inglewood. So it's like, who wants to watch a 3-4 USC team play a bad Rutgers team? But the people that are going to be there, if it's close in the fourth quarter, you can expect boos, put in Jaden Mayava chance, and I mean, we'll see how that goes.
I will say, we could hop on the 5 and get down there tonight.
Yeah, we could watch that game.
Let's go.
We could. I mean, I'm scared to look up how much these tickets are cost. I can guarantee you, probably you can get some for like $20.
Oh man,
which
I'm down.
I mean, it was weird. I was looking at it before because I'm like, especially after LSU win, I was like, oh, like what games in LA can I go watch? Rutgers should be a good one. It was like $70-$80, and I'm like, okay, Friday night Rutgers, yeah, it could be worth it. Now I bet like that stadium's gonna be half empty. Like it's gonna be bad. But yeah, looking to tonight, they have a run game, and that's pretty much it. His name is Manon Guy. Yeah, Manon Guy. If we stop, I mean, that's been the game plan almost all year. Stop the run and make their quarterback beat us. And in almost every single game except for the Michigan game, that quarterback has beaten us. So it's, all on the shoulders of, I don't even want to pronounce Rutgers. It's Kaliakmanis.
Yes.
You know what? We'll see how he does. Defense, a lot of freshmen today, so we'll see.
Who knows? I mean, it seems like the pattern for these USC losses is needing to make plays in big moments, and USC can't do it, and their opponents can.
Exactly.
So that's going to have to stop at some point because even looking at the stats, it's very even in terms of how the teams are playing, but it comes down to the last moments who can make the plays when they need to, and it's been the other team so far.
Yep.
So, big one against Rutgers. Just not even big because it's Rutgers, but just to get back on a winning. Yeah. The winning side of things.
Both teams have a losing streak coming in, so
yeah,
someone's streak has to end.
It's gonna end tonight. But man, I was also noticing quickly on Maryland, at the end of the first half, you know how I am with coaching decisions. I get so frustrated with coaches and the things they do. Well, Maryland just got a little time, trying to get down for a field goal before the half ends. They are making plays. They complete a pass for a first down. They run up and spike it. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, you're doing it right. They got no timeouts. They spike it. They got a good 15 seconds left, or even more. Yeah. They run another play, get another first down. They complete it with 15 seconds. Yeah. So they run up, and this time they don't spike it. No. They're at the 27. They're set up for a 44-yard field goal. They're ready. They run up. They don't spike it this time for whatever reason. Snap goes over his head. He runs back, falls on it, end of the half. Yeah. I mean, I was watching it last night. To recap, I was so confused. Like, what? You already spiked it.
Yeah. Before.
30 seconds ago.
Yeah, why not just do it here?
And you're not going to do it again. It makes no sense to me. Obviously, they ended up winning the game. Yeah. But at that point, they're down 21-7. Yeah. Trying to make it 21-10 and give them a little momentum going into halftime. And coaching decision, coaches. Hey, if you want a little consultant, I'm available for hire. There's a lot of guys like me who could give you the same advice, but my goodness.
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk about Lincoln Riley calling a timeout 1 second before the half ended just to kneel it. I thought that's where you're going, but yeah.
Also dumb. Also dumb. But Hey, let's move on. Let's talk about some of the big games from last week. We can't move on without looking past number 1 versus number 5.
Yeah.
Texas hosting Georgia, and Georgia,
man,
having their way.
Yeah.
Against Texas. Were you looking to see this at all? Expecting this?
I mean, I didn't really was able to watch it. I think I was just really in a not great mood after we lost to Maryland. I was like, I don't want to watch any more football.
No.
But just watching the highlights, it's like Quinn Ewers he looked off. Yeah. I mean, he got hit a few times. Georgia really that defense just really showed up. I mean, the last couple weeks and all year, their defense has been up and down.
Yep.
But yeah, they just went in. They had a lot of nice blitz packages, and then Quinn Ewers, he was just not seeing things right. The sequence right before he got benched was probably the worst, football I ever seen Quinn Ewers play. I mean, he had, I think it was 4 straight plays where it was like he missed a read, he threw a pick, and then, he just kept missing reads and just not seeing the defense. And I mean, they put in Arch Manning, and we talked about it. We're like, they have 2 good QBs. I mean, he did not look great either. No. They kept stalling, and then I was like, all right, Quinn, get back in there.
Yeah.
I mean, they scored 1 offensive touchdown, so half their points because they had that pick 6. Which, I mean, what's your thoughts? Was that how that entire situation, obviously not handled correctly, but
right.
What are your thoughts on the situation?
What specifically?
The pass interference, and then the booing, and then getting called back.
Yeah, I saw a comment saying I've never seen referees scared of a fan base.
Yeah.
But looking at the beginning, I didn't think that it was pass interference. Yeah. I thought it was some hand fighting back and forth, and okay, they ended up with an interception. But when you throw that flag, you announce the penalty.
Yeah.
You move forward. There's
yeah.
I never see that.
Yeah.
Them going back and just saying, never mind, it wasn't pass interference at all. So that sequence is just crazy.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't agree with it the way they handled it. I wish they didn't call it in the first place. Yeah. But those Texas fans were going crazy. I hear they're putting up more sanctions this week for the Texas fans.
Yeah.
to make sure that they don't do it, which they're actually going to Vandy.
Yeah, let's see. We're going to pick that later.
Texas Vandy is a pick'em this week. That tells you something. But yeah, I don't know. But going to that point, Carson Beck looked awful.
Yeah.
Look at his statistics.
Yeah.
Less than 200 yards passing, no touchdowns, 3 picks.
Yeah.
We're talking about him as potentially the number 1 pick going into the season.
Yeah.
He has not lived up to the billing.
Not at all.
Thankfully, his defense and the running game behind Trevor Etienne was able to do the job. 3 touchdowns for Trevor Etienne. He's fantastic. I mean, I wish we still had him for the Gators. But honestly, the rushing game is okay for Florida. Yeah. But this Texas offense just had no chance.
Yeah, they couldn't get anything going whatsoever.
Their first 3rd down conversion was with 8 minutes left in the game.
Jeez.
They were 2 for 15 overall in the game, and they've had 4 turnovers. Their offense was just sputtering. It looked like the Georgia defense of the last 2 years. Yeah, the last 3, I should say, and before. So, if this Georgia defense can actually keep it up and continue playing this way, because even if Carson Beck has an okay game,
they're blowing them
that
out.
defense can blow a team out. So, yikes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think going into the game, kind of the only shot we gave Georgia, just because Texas was supposed to be running all cylinders, and this was supposed to be, maybe Texas puts up 28, 30-something points, and then it's like, all right, Georgia, the only shot you have is Carson Beck to play like Carson Beck,
right?
Like his highest potential, and he just did not. He looked, arguably worse than Quinn Ewers did, and and they still won, which is it gets back to the old Stetson Bennett days where Stetson doesn't have to do a ton, and he just needs to make sure the team's going.
even with that, though, he played much better than Beck has been playing recently, so he's got to turn things around. But, yeah, wild. And I'd say even with them being now number 2 in the country, the way that Georgia has been playing, combined with the way Florida has been playing, adds to that hope of Florida maybe could do something to get a victory. Trust me, I'm not going to be picking that at all.
Yeah.
But at least the hope is there that if Georgia's playing down and we're playing up, then maybe there's a chance. But definitely a huge game there. Let's continue in the SEC here. Alabama, Tennessee.
Oh, man.
Alabama, Tennessee. This was another game that was so interesting to watch coming in. 2 one-loss teams in the SEC where we're saying either one of these, especially Alabama, if you lose this game, dropping to 5-2.
Yeah, it's looking tough.
With what's going to be coming for the rest of the year, and they do lose the game 24-17. I mean, there's so much to say, but Jalen Milroe has just looked off bad ever since they played against Georgia, and I've got some statistics here for us to look at. Ever since they were playing against Georgia, and he had that huge first quarter, right? They went for 28 points in that first quarter. They just totally destroyed Georgia. After that, his statistics have dropped off. So I'll have that for us in a minute. But what did you see for us in this matchup?
I mean, it's just Tennessee's defense showed up, and I don't even think, it wasn't, Tennessee's defense is good, and they're great.
Absolutely.
But it just looks like Alabama's just all out of sorts. I think Alabama, especially in the beginning of the year, just relied on deep shots, big plays.
Yep. And
they just had none of those all game long. There wasn't really a lot of, just chuck it up to Ryan Williams, see what happens.
No.
It's, Ryan Williams still had a great game, but it's like Jalen Milroe, his elusiveness, his speed, it seems like every time I watch him, he's running around in circles in the pocket just to get sacked.
Yeah.
And he can't escape those guys, and you see that speed, and it's just run the ball. He had 11 yards, obviously mixed in with all those sacks, but man, it's brutal to watch because the potential of this offense, and it's just the running game is just so inconsistent. And then Jalen Milroe, when the game's put on his back, it's they can't consistently get drives. And just looking at the drive chart at the end, they had 3 opportunities to do something against Tennessee once they're down by 4, and they went 3 and out. Then they got 1 yard and turned it over on downs, and then they threw a pick. And I mean, Nico didn't. At the end, the second half, the offense started to click. Yeah. And that's what we kind of said was they just need a game to just start clicking. And Nico looked good at the end. Dylan Sampson, just did his thing. And I mean, Brew McCoy, big in the game 2 years ago. Big in this game too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dylan Sampson going off for 139 and 2 touchdowns carried them through this game. But it was kind of similar to what we were talking about before with USC. Both teams at about the 14-minute mark, the score is 17-14, and it's who's going to make a play.
Yeah.
And both teams were faltering, making mistakes. Tennessee was able to get those 2 scores, and Alabama just did not have answers. I was talking about those statistics. When we look at the first 3 games and a quarter, his yards are about the same. He was getting almost 300 yards a game. But running the ball, 5.3 yards a carry, 17 total touchdowns, 1 turnover.
Yeah.
And in all those games, he had at least 2 passing and 2 rushing touchdowns in each game. Since that point, so for the past 3 3/4 games, yardage is just a little down overall. His yards per carry is down about 2.3. About 3 yards less per carry. Remember, those include sacks, too. So he's getting beat up back there. 7 total touchdowns, 7 total turnovers. I mean, a total flip of the script.
Yeah. Jeez.
And what questions does that bring up? Definitely the matchups. They're getting into SEC play and are facing some really good defenses. Jalen Milroe looks like he's, like you said, running around like a chicken with his head cut off back there. I mean, they've got some time still. They can't lose. They can't lose another game. They have to go undefeated the rest of the way to make it to the playoff. Tennessee is now set up in a really good spot at 6-1 with some solid wins on the resume, and both these can still be playoff teams, but they got slim margins.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But our next game that was huge. I had so much fun watching it. Miami-Louisville. What a fun game.
Oh, man.
I mean, we had some wild plays.
Yeah.
Kickoff return touchdown. We had a fake punt. We had some. I mean, 52-45 final score was wild. The biggest thing I take from it, this guy Cam Ward. Oh my goodness.
So good.
So, I mean, he just looks calm, cool, collected, chucking it around the field. His guys are making huge plays for him. Oh, Miami, if I didn't dislike them as a program, they're such a fun team to watch.
Such a fun team.
They were up by 2 touchdowns there at the end. Ended up being 1 touchdown. It was pretty close. Onside kicks or something, if you're just going to sputter it 20 yards down the field and Xavier Restrepo is just going to fall on it.
It's
people got to get better at onside kicks. I mean, seriously. You got to get the 2-bouncer, high hop. You jump up and try and get it. Yeah. But anyways, wild game to watch. It was super fun. But Miami, we're talking about it maybe being a letdown game for them, but still undefeated up there in top 5 range and securing their spot. It seems like heading toward playoff time. Yeah,
I mean, Miami, I've been kind of hating. They've looked shaky. I've been hating, and I mean, they just keep on pulling out wins. Yeah. And I mean, Louisville is a good team. Right. Their defense, I think, was supposed to be better. I mean, the defense has been their strong suit, definitely last year. And they kind of upgraded on offense, and Tyler Shuck looked great. I mean, he just kept launching it. Ja'Cory Brooks and Chris Bell were just running around doing whatever they wanted. Yeah. I mean, that's something Miami, if you want to make it a deep run in the playoffs, you're gonna have to shore that up. Yeah. Because you can't be letting a team like Louisville score 45. And obviously there was a lot of craziness like the fumble and the kickoff return, but yeah, Miami, Cam Ward, I think he's had over 300 yards passing every single game this year. Mm-hmm. Like, that is insane. He had 4 touchdowns today. I mean, I guess last week, and yeah, I feel like he should be either 1 or 2 in the Heisman voting right now.
Yeah, and with him being Power 5 and a quarterback, he would be number 1 over Ashton Genty, which we'll talk about in a minute. Mm-hmm. He's got to be up there as number 1. I actually heard today someone talking about the statistical comparison in the first 7 games between him and the last 3 Heisman winners, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Bryce Young. And he's right up there with him. Yeah. He's like leading in yards. He's right there tied for first with touchdowns. I mean, he's playing amazing. So he's up there. And some interesting games from this week. But let's talk now about our preseason predictions. We're over halfway through the season now, so we can consider, again, what were we picking at the beginning of the year? Our playoff teams, our national champion, our Heisman winners. Some good and some bad, certainly. What do you see from your predictions at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, a little cheating because week 9 is kind of starting as we're doing this, but my Liberty team, Liberty pick, I thought I could be so sneaky. Yeah. I was going in, I liked Boise State. My coworker was just gassing them up all off season, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I can see them losing 2 games, 3 games. They have a tough schedule. Liberty, no Power 5 teams. They have a good quarterback, and I just thought they just win, win, and you'll be at the top. It was a little sneaky pick. They lose. They let Kennesaw State get their first FBS win. Yikes. So that was a lot of fun. So they're out, but just kind of looking through. Oklahoma State, I had them winning the Big 12. They struggling mightily. I also had Florida State winning the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
They were knocked out of ACC contention, by week 2?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, looking through USC, that was going to be another sneaky pick. They were on the trajectory, and they just decided to just start losing every game. But besides that, Notre Dame, I think they're still going strong. They're going to have a tough slate coming up with Navy, Army, and USC coming up. Ole Miss, they're going to have to win out. Georgia looking good. Clemson bouncing back after that big Georgia loss.
Yeah.
And
they've been playing great.
Yeah, they've been playing great. So, yeah, and then rounding out with Alabama, which if they win out, Ohio State and Texas and Oregon. So, yeah, what are you seeing from yours?
Well, I would say from yours, I could still see 8 of them being in the playoffs. They have a chance of it. From mine, I see 9. It really brings in that Boise State.
Yeah.
I had Boise State as my 12, and I see them as having a better chance now.
100%.
I don't see Liberty as getting in after losing
they're done.
Kennesaw State. We were saying CBS has their ranking all 134 FBS teams, and Kennesaw State was 134. So Liberty lost their way to the worst team in the country, winless Kennesaw. But mine, still the top 3, Georgia, Oregon, and Clemson can certainly still win their conferences. A big thing that we both missed out on was Miami.
Yeah.
We were both down on Miami to start the year, and they've come out and played up to their billing. So other teams, Texas, Ohio State are certainly up there. Notre Dame, for both of us, still has a chance.
Yeah.
Certainly they've got to win out the rest of their games. But Alabama, Ole Miss, FSU was a bad pick for both of us.
Yeah.
Man, they're awful.
Yeah.
So we're in the mix. We'll see how it ends up shaping up at the end of the day. But national champions, we have Georgia. I have Georgia. You have Ohio State. Both certainly still have a chance to win the whole thing. And our Heisman winners, no. Jackson Dart for myself.
Nope.
Quinn Ewers.
Nope.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. We can look at the other guys as, right now it's a race between Cam Ward and Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
Which, we'll talk about him for a minute now.
Yeah.
Boise State is up there. They have 1 loss on the season to Oregon, where they lost by 3, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And have been playing amazing.
Yeah.
He's at 200 yards a game. He is looking at pushing Barry Sanders for the overall rushing record, which is 2,600 yards. I mean, this guy is an animal. They're playing tonight against UNLV, so I want to try and tune in if possible. But this guy's playing out of his mind.
Insane. The prop bets for him are 190 yards.
Oof.
Which it's insane. That's a bet that you're an average quarterback throwing the ball. But he's just been insane. And it's he's a small dude and he's just bouncing off everyone. I saw something, he has more yards after contact than the second place runner in the Mountain West has just yards.
Wow.
Because it's not like their offensive line's creating big holes. He's hitting the holes that he's supposed to, and he is just bouncing off people like a bowling ball. And I mean, he's having an amazing season. But he's gonna have to keep it up, and it's gonna be harder to keep it up just throughout the year. We'll see. But also, I mean, you kind of didn't mention Travis Hunter coming in. He's having a great season. I think it's just crazy that he's playing both sides just every play. He's kind of, he's really good at both, but I think the stats aren't there to kind of support him being just winning it. I think he's definitely going to be in New York if he plays the rest of the year, but I think just the raw stats, it's just not there.
You got a yards per carry guess on Ashton Genty? Do you know?
I want to say 9.7.
9.9. He's almost averaging a first down per rush.
Not even just getting him the ball. It's just handing it off.
Just give it to him.
And he's not bad in the receiving game either. It's just, man, what do you even say?
Yeah. I'll finish that by saying Ashton Genty, born in Jacksonville, Florida.
There we go.
His dad was in the military, so they moved around a lot. He grew up in Italy for a bit and then moved back. I heard Boise State was his only offer. Mm-hmm. And so he went there, and even this past year, he was highly coveted if he would have gone out into the transfer portal, but he stayed true to Boise State, and man, they got a good guy right there. So, crazy game. Our preseason predictions, some good, definitely some. The Heisman picks are laughable right now, but that'll lead us right into our trivia question.
Oh, gosh.
I've got a good one for Nathanael this week. Let me turn my computer a little bit so he doesn't get a look-see, but we've got a good one. Going back in time in the history of USC.
Oh, no.
We're going to go for the Trojans here, and since 1960, the USC Trojans have had 12 head coaches.
Okay.
I need you to try and tell me the 12
head coaches.
USC head coaches since the year 1960.
All right, well, 6 or 7 of them have been since 2000. So okay. We can, we had Paul Hackett, we had Pete Carroll, we had Steve Sarkisian, we had Lane Kiffin, we had, Clay Helton, we have, what's his name? Lincoln Riley. Are you counting interim head coach Ed Ogeron?
Yes.
There we go. Was that, 8?
2013, 8 games. He went 6-2.
Yeah. That was a good time. I honestly, because we hired Sark right after. That was one guy that I wish we kept. But then also kind of seeing how his career kind of ended up in LSU, where he had one good season where they won the championship, and then all the rest was just brutal. So maybe we dodged a bullet, but all right, let me think. How many coaches? Is that 7?
So let me see. You gave me Hackett, Carroll, Orgeron, Helton, Sark,
Kiffin,
Riley. That's 7. Looking for
6 more.
5 more.
Oh, is John McKay? Was he in the 60s?
John McKay, 1960 to 75. There we go.
Paul Robinson.
Yes, Paul Robinson. After him, he had 2 stints of coaching, from 76 to 82, and then again from 93 to 97.
Yeah, Keyshawn Johnson era.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We got 3 more to go.
Oh gosh, and you didn't count the Robinson for 2.
No.
Oh no. Are any of these, like the last 3, are any of these like notable? Because that's kind of the dark ages of USC.
So you had 2 coaches between Robinson and Hackett for a good 4 to 6 years each.
Oh gosh.
One from 83 to 86, and then 87 to 92.
So they did not do anything. Oh gosh.
Let me see. We got a record of 26, 20-1, and then 44, 25-3.
Okay,
not too bad.
Okay, and then that third coach. When was the third coach?
The third coach, we've got an interim. Oh. An interim just from 2021.
Dante Williams.
There you go.
Oh gosh, I forgot he was. Yeah, because we fired Helton, and then we decided to promote a cornerbacks coach to head coach, and we had that big win that we both watched against Washington State.
Yep.
The Jackson Dart game. Made me a believer.
I believe in him so much I picked him to win the Heisman this year. But we got 2 more. So those 2 from the 80s to the early 90s.
I don't even know if I can give you a guess.
Let me see. The first guy I got initials TT.
Yeah, no, I have no idea.
We got Ted Tolliner.
Yeah, I've never heard of him in my life.
Okay, then LS. Next guy. Very basic name.
Yeah, I don't got it.
Larry Smith.
Oh, okay. I do know Larry
Ted
Smith.
Tolliner, Larry Smith. You got 10 out of the 12. That was impressive.
Because 8 of them were in the last 10 years.
Well, 8 of them in the last 9 of them were in the last 26 years.
Yeah.
So, but you ran through those, like, in your prime
in my,
of USC,
in
USC
my
fandom.
in my lifetime.
And then you got the 2 old guys too, who were there for a good long time. You got McKay and Robinson, so
Goats,
very good.
The goats.
I can turn my computer back up.
Like
Both
that.
of them had almost 75% winning percentage for USC, so some glory days back there for sure.
Yeah.
So good on the trivia question right there. We'll have another one. You'll have one for me next week. Let's talk risers and fallers. So go into our top 25 at this point in the year. We certainly had some jumps and some ranked matchups this year. So I'll give you my biggest riser, and then you can give both of yours, riser and faller, and then I'll hit you with my biggest faller after that. This is a tough one, man. There weren't huge moves up in the top 25 this week, and man, I've kind of been bouncing around, but I'm gonna stick with Tennessee.
Okay.
For this one, Tennessee with a home win over Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Huge name there, and coming off of Tennessee sputtering a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Florida should have beat Tennessee the week before. We had them on the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a bad loss for them. So they were really not looking great coming into this game against the Crimson Tide. But coming away with a win, jumping up a few spots into the number 11 hole. Or no, what are they now?
They are 7.
They're 7 in the AP top 25. So looking good, jumping up 4 spots there. And they're, like we said already, putting themselves in a prime spot to be in the playoff. And honestly, we'll talk about this closer to the conference championship time. For some of these teams, you're going to want to not be in the conference championship game.
Yeah.
Because then you can skip that, not have another loss, and be able to sneak your way into the playoff. So that might be the position they're in, potentially, being able to not play in the SEC championship and get in with 1 loss, if that is the case. So the Volunteers are my biggest riser. What about you?
Yeah, kind of going off of your point, I think it'll be interesting how the committee uses the conference championship game. Like, are they going to, hurt the team that lost just because they made it? Or is it going to be kind of like that situation where TCU lost their conference championship game to Kansas State and they still made the playoffs?
Yeah.
And that was the 4 team. But for me, my biggest riser, we haven't really talked about this team much, but Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, they just played Nebraska and they beat them up. It was bad. 56-7. Dylan Raiola, we're talking highly of him at the beginning of the year. It wasn't that he looked like horrible. It's just Indiana's defense, they're tough, they're physical. Right. I think the Matt Rule, all the hype of the second year, that's starting to crumble. And Kurt Cignetti, man, he said at the beginning of his time here, Google me, I win.
Yeah.
And he is 7-0. And they're 13 right now in the AP. They got some tough games ahead. Let me check here.
Yeah, they've been talking about, I've heard word of, because we're talking about new coaches in Florida.
Yeah.
And that name has been thrown out.
Yeah.
I don't want a 63-year-old as my new coach. Like, I'm looking toward the future. He seems great, but I'm looking for someone else. What do they got coming up?
Yeah, they got Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, and then Ohio State, Purdue. So, 4 out of those 5 games should be pretty easy. Not easy, but, solid victories. And, they get Michigan at home. They're looking good. Their quarterback, Rourke, he got hurt at the end of the first half. They put in their backup, and their backup, Johnson, he looked good. Mm-hmm. So, they're also kind of blowing them out at the time, too. So, we'll see where Rourke is coming back, but it doesn't seem to be too bad. And, Indiana. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I hate to, if there's any Indiana fans, watching, I don't know how long Kirk Cignetti is going to be there. Yeah.
Hey, they're a basketball school.
Yeah,
that's all right.
The Hoosiers. But yeah.
How about your biggest faller?
Yeah. Moving on, I think my biggest faller is going to have to be Alabama.
Yeah.
They came in so hyped this year. They were, for both of us, in the top 10 for our playoff predictions. And, we were expecting 1 loss, maybe even 2, but not like this.
Yeah.
they started off hot and they beat Georgia. That was supposed to be, the big win, going to turn around the season. They're going to smoke everyone. Their odds to win the whole thing skyrocketed. But then, to your point, after that first quarter, you kind of just see the real Alabama team.
Yeah.
They're not a great team. They're a good team with great spurts. And that Vandy loss, you can kind of shake it off as an emotional hangover.
Right.
But just ever since then, just bad. Their offense, as you were saying earlier, has just lost its spark. I think, part of the reason, Jalen Milroe's kind of getting sacked a ton, running around a ton, and, not being able to run is they're trying to force big plays, and when it's not happening, they don't have the patience or just, the ability to just dink and dime down the field. And I mean, kind of like in the NFL, 2 deep safeties, just take away the big play. That's kind of what the script's been against Alabama. And I mean, their defense isn't what it was back in the early 2010s to where they can just lean on their defense.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And Kalen DeBoer is going to have his time to grow and see what the future is for Alabama. But we talked about Jalen Milroe just falling off in these last 3+ games. And I don't know what to expect from that. He was the Heisman favorite after those first 4 games. So total change for Alabama, and I certainly wouldn't be surprised if they lose another game and miss the playoff from here. My biggest faller is a team we're not really talking about much anymore, but it's Michigan.
Yeah.
Finally going to put them to bed after they were number 24 coming in. CBS in their top 134 has them dropping 17 spots after losing to Illinois, 21-7. Really, this game, even with Jack Tuttle at quarterback, they were putting up yards and moving the ball. It was just not finishing the drives. After they had a bunch of short drives and either fumble or punt to finish it off, but after they scored their touchdown in the second quarter, they had a 15-play, 65-yard drive that took 8 minutes and 49 seconds, ending with a missed field goal. They had a 12-play, 69-yard drive over 5 minutes, interception. They had a turnover on downs. They ended up with a drive that ran out the rest of the clock. I mean, it was just not getting the job done. Even having some production on offense, but then just falling to obviously an Illinois team that's good this year. They're ranked. They're 6-1 on the season, but Michigan, of course, compared to how they've been in previous years with Harbaugh, with all their playmakers around them, they've just fallen off. So Michigan's my biggest faller at this point in the season. Next week we'll have some different answers of what those are going to be. But man, let's talk picks. We're into week 9.
Yeah.
Is it now? My goodness. So
wow. Time's
I had myself a pretty good week coming 3-2. You're 1-4.
Brutal
last
stretch of games.
Week in the picks. So definitely difficult. We both had Texas, who went down to Georgia. So I'm sitting at 24-17. You're 22-19, and we've got 5 more games here for us to pick this week, and I'm up first. So first, we already mentioned it, but the game tonight, Boise State at UNLV. What an interesting matchup. Ashton Jeanty going up against this Haj Malik Williams, who we know about what happened with Sluka leaving the team as the UNLV quarterback. Haj Malik has been better than Sluka, which is maybe why they weren't giving him the money they promised. But Boise State is a 3.5-point favorite going into this game, and I'm just going to have to keep riding them. I'm going Boise State to win. Again, I have him as my 12 seed in the playoff at the end of the year. Keep feeding Ashton Jeanty the ball. Let him go over 200 again this week. I think the Broncos are going to be able to go into Las Vegas and win this game.
Yeah, I think it's a big game. I mean, it's a young offense. Obviously, they lose a running back, they lose a quarterback for UNLV, and I mean, going up against a more veteran Boise State team, I know I've been throwing around veteran a lot, especially with Oklahoma State. Hasn't really worked out, but I think Madsen's kind of that perfect, kind of game manager where it's, Malachi Nelson was supposed to come in and start, right. But Madsen's has come in and just done what he's needed to do. He's made the throws when they've needed it. I mean, this is a team that went toe-to-toe with Oregon. What was that? In Austin.
In Austin. Austin Stadium, yeah.
I was listening to too much Zach Brown last night. But, this is a really good team. I think UNLV's going to keep it close, but I think Boise State's taking it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that pick, and we're going to a game I really find interesting, and I'm hoping I'm able to watch this week. But we got number 12, Notre Dame, against number 24, Navy. Yeah. And we'll have to talk more about these service academies. Navy and Army are playing awesome to start this year. Notre Dame is a 13.5-point favorite. Yeah. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, both service academies are doing awesome, like you said. They were my biggest riser last week, and, watching them just – they do what they're just so disciplined. I think with the transfer portal kind of depleting a lot of rosters, a lot of their depth. This is a team where both schools are really disciplined. They do what they need to, and with I think all the technology advancements, they can kind of adjust to however they see people trying to attack their triple option. I know Navy has turned to more of a spread look, and they still run a lot of those concepts. But, they are looking good. And Notre Dame, we haven't really talked about them. They've just been doing what they need to do.
Right.
Riley Leonard, he's not throwing it a ton, but he's running the ball well. They're just winning games how they need to win games. I really want to go Navy, but I feel like I'm in a spot where if I get another 1-4 week, I might just, lose the season. So I'm going to go Notre Dame, but they're pretty much a 14-point favorite. Yeah. But I think it's going to be a close game. I think Navy's physicality is really going to surprise Notre Dame.
Yeah, absolutely. You wanted to go Navy. I'm going Navy. I'm picking them. Man, I love watching these Navy and Army teams play. Navy is they're not just beating teams. They're destroying teams. And, of course, they're not playing the level of Notre Dame. But I have confidence in them coming in. This quarterback, Horvath, he can throw the ball.
Yeah.
And that's just what Navy has lacked in the past a lot. Shout out Creekside grad Ty Lavatai, former quarterback at Navy. Love you. But this guy, Horvath, is playing well.
Yeah.
10 passing touchdowns, only 1 interception, 10 rushing touchdowns as well. And Notre Dame, I haven't trusted them, even still, ever since I lost to Northern Illinois. And an interesting point here, they're playing at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So the Jets and Giants Stadium, it's a fast track on the turf. I'm looking for the rushing game of Navy to really give Notre Dame fits and be able to win this game. So I like Navy.
Right.
Next one.
Big one. That's a big one.
It is a big one. And I just, again, quickly, I want the chaos of Army and Navy both being undefeated.
I do too.
When they meet up. Do you know the situation about if they play in the conference championship game?
Yeah, it's going to be before their Army-Navy game.
Which we did mention this previously in the podcast. But if that happens, because they could potentially, one of them, be in the playoff. So the winner of that conference championship game could end up being in the playoffs. And they've said, because the selection is right after the conference championship games. So they've said the end result of the Army-Navy game won't matter about the playoff, which is just awesome. It's crazy. So I love it. Yeah. But let's move forward. We've got two seemingly kind of disappointing teams in the SEC to this point. Number 21, Missouri, going to play at number 15, Alabama. Alabama's a huge favorite in this game, 17.5 points. And I'm going to have to ride that.
Yeah.
Even with how disappointing Alabama has been to this point in the season, I still have so much more confidence in them over Missouri. I think going home, they'll be able to play well again. Jalen Milroe get out of this funk that he's been in. I could see him going for multiple rushing and passing touchdowns in this game. And, man, just wanting to turn things on. I was wrong about that last week. I was thinking they were going to go into Tennessee and really put something on them. But, yeah, I've got confidence in them going home to beat Mizzou.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick Missouri. I mean, I've been riding them down all year long, and their defense isn't what it was last year. Is it because they lost their coordinator to LSU, and now LSU's defense is looking good?
Mm-hmm.
I will talk about later. But I think, yeah, Alabama, they just have too many playmakers. They just have too much talent for Missouri to overcome. And I think Brady Cook, he had a really gutsy performance after coming back. You know, he was like, I don't want, to end my college career like this. He came back from injury and just really willed themselves to win against Auburn, which that shouldn't be a situation where, Auburn's a team that just regularly shoots themselves in the foot, like maybe every other drive. So, I mean, if that's a team you're really struggling with, I mean, they're a decent team, but I think Alabama, I don't know if they're going to blow them out, but I think they're just going to do just enough to win that game.
Yeah, I like that pick. It leads us to another ranked SEC matchup, which we spoiled earlier. We've got number 5 Texas going to number 25 Vandy. Oh boy, what a game here in Tennessee. If Vandy beats Alabama at home and then comes back and beats Texas at home in the same year, they're going to put both field goal uprights into the river. I mean, they're going to freak out up there. But Texas is an 18.5-point favorite in this game. Does Vandy have any shot?
It's like you just look at it and you're like, no shot. But then you think back to Alabama game and like, okay, Texas, even if they'd still lose last week, if they put up a better fight, you're like, okay, yeah, there's just tiers to this. Alabama's not in that tier. Alabama is prone to struggling. But then, like, Vanderbilt, they're just a solid SEC team. Yeah. And we have to kind of get that mindset that Vanderbilt sucks out of our head. They're a decent team. But I think Texas, renewed focus. They're going to Vanderbilt. I think their defense isn't like Alabama's defense, where they're prone to big plays. I think Texas's defense is a really solid, good unit. I think they're a top 10, top 15 defense in the country, and I think that's going to help them. And I think Quinn Ewers is going to get back on track. I think last week he realizes it was a bad week, and I think he's going to turn it on, especially with the heat of I can get benched. So I think Texas is going to go in. I think they're going to probably blow them out by multiple scores, but ending the Cinderella story that Vanderbilt has been building.
Yeah, sadly. It's a situation where they're coming into the game in such a different situation than Bama. Bama came off the dramatic win against Georgia. Straight into this game, a sleeper game at Vandy, and they give up 40 points and lose. Texas, on the other hand, just lost a huge game to get their first loss of the season against Georgia, and now are going in hungry to beat Vanderbilt. So I like their strength in this game. It's interesting. I won't read out all the stats, but when you compare the passing stats between Diego Pavia and Quinn Ewers, Pavia's better. When you put up the rushing yards between Vandy's leading rusher and Texas's, which Vandy's is also Diego Pavia, it's better. Even the receiving leaders, Vandy is better. So, man, the statistics are so interesting looking at this game. But Texas, I mean, even with how they played against Georgia, look at what they did. They held Georgia to field goals, even when their offense was playing terrible. They got 3 interceptions on Carson Beck. I think that, like you were saying, the defense is going to be able to hold up and win this game against Vanderbilt. We're talking about it being so close. I mean, it's a 5-2 team against a 6-1, so it's a good matchup, but so funny to say. We'll finish it off with our last pick of the week. Another game in the SEC. We've got number 8 LSU traveling to play number 14 Texas A&M. Right now, Texas A&M is a 1-point favorite, basically a pick 'em in this game. And man, this is so difficult. Kind of similar you with Missouri. I've been riding Texas A&M. I don't trust them at all. Yeah. And even when Connor Weigman came back, I was more confident in their backup. Mm-hmm. But Weigman has continued to lead them to victories. We've got another matchup here where an SEC team could get a second loss and really question their chances to make it to the playoffs. So both these teams are going to be hungry, and this is at night at Texas A&M in Kyle Field. I'm just still on LSU. I'm going to continue to pick against Texas A&M until I get it right. So LSU, I just like the look of their team better. The defense overall has been playing better than previous years. Nussmeier has played well to this point in the season. 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And so I'm confident in the Tigers to keep in their hopes for the playoffs and Texas A&M finally getting that second loss.
Yeah, I think this is funny because these are probably the third and fourth ranked SEC teams.
Yeah.
But if you look at the standings, these are the 2 top teams in the SEC, both undefeated in SEC play.
Right.
And I mean, both these teams have realistic shots at making it to the SEC championship game.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, yeah, you're kind of looking at the 2 losses, LSU to USC, Texas A&M to Notre Dame, both first week of the season. And they've really started to build their identities since then. But I think Texas A&M, Weigman getting hurt early has really kind of hurt that offense. I mean, they struggled last week, against Mississippi State, which we both know, especially after watching them just get destroyed by Florida when Florida was struggling. Like, Mississippi State's not a good team.
No.
And Weigman struggled hard. And, they beat a Missouri team, which, maybe a little overrated. And, yeah, I just like LSU in this game. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier, he has a good arm. He makes the right decisions 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Their running game is starting to pick up a little bit, knock on wood. I think the running game is going to be the big part of this game. Le'Veon Moss is probably one of the better running backs in the SEC, and is he going to be able to kind of keep this Texas A&M team rolling on offense? We'll see. But I'm taking LSU in this game. I think they're coming to Kyle Field and taking it.
So you're telling me we're picking 4 of the games the same?
I know. I thought you were going Texas A&M. I thought we'd split, but...
Oh, boy. Well, definitely doesn't look good for these teams we're picking. But that's what we've got for this week. Man, so glad to join in person
This has been
with
fun.
Nathanael. It's good to be here. Good to have you here in my home, in my garage. And, man, thanks for tuning in. We're looking forward to these games this week. It's a bye week for my Gators, so I can sit back and watch the other games. You're going to have to grind tonight over a Rutgers game, so that means we're both free tomorrow to watch whatever football we want and relax. So thanks for watching/listening. Please follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify, on Instagram. We're up there all week long, and that's it for this week. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy watching some football.
See you.